Welcome back with How to Start a Novel with yours truly, Donnée Patrese. Today, I'm going to welcome you into 2019. Yes, it is 2019. How crazy is that? And I'm also going to give you some writing advice. So today we're going to be going over the top 10 writing tips for 2019. Okay, let's get started. So for my first tip, will be tip 10, number 10 is to start a journal. Yes, I don't mean a day-to-day like diary that you would do when you were in junior high. Like I don't mean like, every day write down what happened that day, because I can never do that. I'm not good at doing the day-by-day diary type deal. But what I mean when I say start a journal, I mean to document everything that you're doing. So let's say you have an idea, because I know sometimes at 2:30 in the morning, an idea will just pop to me. So I want to have a journal where I keep all these ideas together. And I'll go and I'll write down the plot that I thought of, or the character that I thought of, or just the climax that I thought of, So I basically go and I do that. And that's what I mean by keeping a journal. So this year, 2019, if you haven't done it in the past, I suggest keeping a journal and just writing down some brainstorming ideas and, just get your juices going. And so you don't forget, because I know me, I'm very forgetful, and an idea will come to me and I'll go, oh, I'll write it down later. And I never get to it. And then I forgot what that great idea that I had, or that great idea I had while I was in the shower. Keeping a journal will definitely help this year. So tip number 9, start a blog. Okay, so if you have a blog already, this is the year for you to get back into it, to start blogging. And this is why I say to start a blog if you don't have one, period. You want to be able to blog ideas, thoughts on writing, let readers into your world. So this is basically drumming up some market. This is kind of marketing too, but this is drumming up things. So if you're just starting your first novel, or you are starting another novel, this is a way to market yourself, to put yourself out there so that readers get a chance to get to know you before they get to know your characters. So what do I blog? I blog short stories. In the beginning, I used to blog things about my life and journal stuff, but I noticed that I worked better when I blogged short stories. So that's what I like to do. And a lot of those short stories for me turn into novels, or turn into novel ideas that I can then change characters around, move some things around, and turn that into a novel. So that's why I love to blog. Me personally, last year, I didn't blog a lot at all, because I was in the middle of a novel, in the middle of editing another novel, and then I was doing a lot of marketing and some speaking engagements. So I didn't really get a chance to basically get into blogging again. But 2019 is a brand new year, and I'm going to get back into blogging. So look out for that. Okay, so tip number 8. I suggest, in my opinion, is that you should get back into reading. Or if you're already reading and you already have this long list and you're ready to go, great. But if you have not been reading, I suggest that you do. And this is why. I feel that reading gets your juices going as a writer. Sometimes I'll read a really amazing novel and by another brilliant author, and I'll think like, man, I can do that. Like I can get back in there and I can write and I can produce a brilliant novel myself, and it'll just get my competitive juices going. It gets me back into writing. So, and read as much as you can this year. And that could be 1 to 2 books, or that can be like some people that I know that can read like 10 books a year, which I'm extremely busy and I want to be able to do that. So this year I'm going to say, hey, 2019 is my year to get back into reading. So you can read books in any genre. I sometimes read books in my own genre. I'll read books that are similar to my genre, but not exactly. I read a lot of nonfiction because that's something that I strive to write in the future, is some nonfiction stuff. And I admire those that write nonfiction. But that's something that I love to read, biographies, autobiographies, just different types of stories, memoir. I like to read that. So I really want to suggest that you just be well-rounded with your reading and not just stick to one genre or to try to move around, because it may not seem like, if you write fiction, it may not seem that nonfiction would definitely help you, but it really, really does. And the different genres can give you different ideas, because this year I love mysteries, but I never thought that I could do that. But last year I was able to dive into a erotic romance suspense, and this year I'm writing that as well, and I found that that is really exciting for me. And I found that because I love mysteries and I love romance, and so to put the two together was a dream for me. So let's move on. Tip number 7, don't be afraid to ask for advice. So I know a lot of people might tell you, you don't need other people's advice. You just write what you know, write what you want to write. But I say, don't be afraid to ask for advice from a fellow writer or somebody who has been writing for a while. I have mentors that I cherish, and sometimes some of them might not even know they're my mentors, but they are there for me, always there for me. And I cherish them because they help in my writing experience, in my writing journey. And that's what having a mentor and asking that advice, or if it's something you don't know, you might need somebody else to say, so that you can run ideas or bounce ideas off of. And that is why I say, don't be afraid to ask for that advice. So, and that takes me to my next tip. Tip number 6, take the criticism. So when you have a mentor, you have someone giving you advice, be willing to accept that criticism. We don't always, maybe not always agree with what they're saying, and we might feel that some of the advice they gave, you might not want to do, which is totally fine. But be able to accept that criticism. I say that taking the criticism is important, because when you first put your first novel out there, or when you put out any novels after that, you're going to get criticism from your readers. They're going to give it to you, and you're probably going to get a lot of criticism from the ones who don't like it. Some people who like novels, they'll just go like, oh, I like it, and they'll move on. They might not necessarily leave a review, but those that don't like your book will definitely leave you a review. So be prepared for that. And taking the criticism from a mentor or somebody giving you advice would definitely help you. Also, I'm going to say, join a critique group. If you have that in your area, join a critique group, because not only will you get advice from one, but you might get advice from 6 different people. And that is really valuable to you as a writer. And I feel that criticism makes you better. It makes you a better writer. It makes you a better person. So I feel like getting that criticism from fellow writers or from your peers is something that will definitely help you in the future and with future books. It's something that as a writer you can't go without. And that's my opinion on that. So my next tip is to join a writers group. So that comes right on the heels of getting into a critique group, because most of the times when you find a critique group, they're probably through a writers group. I am a part of Writers of Kern, which is here in Bakersfield, California, in Kern County. And basically, I love my writers group. I love it dearly. And I'm giving them a shout out. Hello, Writers of Kern, if you're watching these videos. Basically, I love this writers group because they offer critique groups. As a member of Writers of Kern, you get to experience critique groups. You get to join them. And I've been in one for almost, I would say, about 5 years. I think 4 or 5 years I've been in one. And they have improved my writing immensely. I don't know what I would do without them. And I take that criticism that they give me and I roll with it. You roll with the punches. And sometimes I might not necessarily agree with some of the tips they give me, but majority of the time I do. and it improves my writing. Every novel has gotten better since I've been in Writers of Current. And I suggest that in your area, you look for the writers group. And if you don't have one, start one. I would say start one, even if it's just a small, like, you know how they start book clubs? You can start a writing critique club. And I feel like that will improve your writing, and that will get you where you want to go, get you moving forward in your novel, in your writing journey, and get you where you want to be. So number 4, this one might be a little difficult, depending on what your situation is, but it is invaluable that you do this. Like, you really need to do this in 2019. Be consistent with your writing. So if you haven't been consistent with your writing in the past, I suggest that you be consistent with your writing now. Make it a full-time job. It's your dream job. If you're a writer, you've probably always wanted to write. You want to be able to produce a novel or produce a memoir or some piece of nonfiction. You wanted to do this. You got the opportunity to do it. Take advantage of that opportunity. Be consistent with your writing. Make it a full-time job. Take the time every day to write. So you want to write every single day. And that's not saying you're writing all day every single day. You may take 2 hours out of your day to write. So I suggest finding that time to dedicate to writing and writing only. 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever you got, a half hour to write down some story ideas, some plot ideas. Dedicate that time to writing and writing only. So be consistent with your writing. If you're going to write every day at 6 o'clock, write every day at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. Or if you want to do 8 to 10, right before bed, dedicate that time to it, because this is an important thing for you to do. So it's tip number 3. Ignore the self-doubt that you're going to get. I would say, I know there is that little person inside of you that's telling you that you can't hack it, that you can't cut it, that you're never going to be a good writer, that people are going to hate your book, people are going to hate what you're writing. And as writers, we get that all the time. That self-doubt, it just lingers there. It's like the 800-pound gorilla on your back. Ignore it this year. You have to. If you're going to be consistent in writing, if you're going to get your novel done, you have to ignore that, because it's lies. It's all lies. You're an incredible writer. You can do this. Don't lie to yourself. Be truthful with yourself. Yes, you're going to get criticism. No, you're not going to be able to please everyone. Not everyone's going to like your novel. That's just fact. But don't let those readers who are going to enjoy your novel suffer for the few that may not like it. And you're going to give yourself that self-doubt to say, and you're going to focus on the people that may not like your novel. Don't focus on them. Focus on the ones that are going to enjoy it. I don't care if it's one person that reads that and they're like, oh my God, this is such an incredible novel. Do it for them. Do it for yourself. This year, dedicate yourself to ignoring that self-doubt. Okay, so we're dwindling down. So we're now on tip number 2. And I say to write with abandon. Like, just write your heart out. Put your whole self on that paper or on that computer and get it all out. Don't worry about editing, because that will come later. You will suffer the editing beast later. So right now, just write. Just write. Journal writing, blog writing, writing, getting started with your novel. Just write. Don't worry about anything else. In November, there is and if you haven't seen my NaNoWriMo video, you should go and check that out. But in November, there are people who dedicate themselves to writing 50,000 words in 1 month and in 30 days. And a lot of people accomplish it. And you know why? Because they write with abandon. They don't worry about editing. They just get those 50,000 words down. You just want to write. Write with abandon. Focus on that writing. Don't worry about editing. Just get your words down on paper, because you have plenty of time to edit later. And like I said, check out that NaNoWriMo video, because it has some really good tips in that as well, not just for November, but also for writing in general. Okay, so drum roll. My final tip and my top 10 writing tips for 2019 is to get published. Yes, get published. And I know that might seem a lot more difficult than, you know, you might be like, okay, get published. Like, how am I supposed to just make that happen this year? But there are many ways to be published. You can write short stories for magazines. There are lots of magazines out there. Just search and you'll find different magazines out there that are looking for short stories. You can always self-publish. You may get traditionally published this year. You may write something that a publisher wants to publish. But either way, that should always be your goal. Even if you don't get published in 2019, it's okay. But I use that as my top tip because that's always my goal, is to get published. That's always at the top of my list, is to get published this year. And I would say you want to set that bar high. You want to say, I'm going to get published this year, because that helps to motivate you with all the other tips. That helps to motivate you and get you on your way. When I say that's my goal is to be published in 2019. And even if it doesn't happen, that's my goal every single year. That's my goal. That's going to be my goal in 2020. It's going to be my goal in 2021. Like, that was my goal last year. So you want to make sure that you set your goal very, very high. So in 2019, let's say it together. I'm going to get published. Yes. Okay, those are my top 10 tips for you for 2019 to move you forward through this new year. If you like this video, comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check out my books on Amazon. And I'll see you later.